Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Coming to you from Washington's premier indoor shooting facility. Of course, that's Security Gun Club right here in Woodinville, Washington. Hey, we're going to go all the way back out to Illinois. Why? Well, because we need to talk about That's right. Now, we're not going to be going through the numbers. We'll usually do that on the weekend to just see how well the state of Illinois is or is not complying with this registration requirement. But good news, if you scour the United States Supreme Court dockets yesterday on Tuesday, actually, you will see a very interesting docket entry. It appears that somebody is asking the United States Supreme Court to step in, and my God, it cannot be a moment too soon. So today, let's spend a few minutes. Let's get a little hopeful. Let's talk about, is the Supreme Court going to stop Illinois' gun confiscation? Okay, so what we're talking about for the 172nd time today is Illinois' assault weapon ban. Absolutely the most nefarious, evil, and sinister piece of gun control legislation ever passed in the history of the United States. Not only because of what it did, but how it was passed. We've geeked out on that enough. Now, obviously, after this law went into effect, which was immediately upon the governor's signature, the lawsuits started flying. We're going to focus on two separate lawsuits. We've focused on both of these individually. We're going to focus on them collectively. They're attempting to do the same thing. They're doing it in different courts and they're taking different methods, but we are kind of hopeful here that the cavalry is on the way. Now, when I said that if you take a look at the United States Supreme Court emergency docket, you will see that there is a petition for review in the case of Caulkins v. Pritzker. Now, for those of you who can't keep track of all the lawsuits in Illinois, and I get that, Caulkins v. Pritzker is a lawsuit that was actually brought by an Illinois State House of Representative, Mr. Caulkins, who then sued the governor in the state of Illinois on the assault weapon ban. That case ultimately ended up in the Southern District of Illinois, and an injunction was temporarily granted. Hallelujah. Of course, that led to a very brief, not really so much Freedom Week as much as it was a freedom couple of days there in Illinois, where people did go back out and was able to purchase these firearms again. Now, that's subject to a whole nother thing with the registration requirements and what PICA all it says that is required, and that those guns could still be subject to forfeiture and confiscation later on, but I digress. Now, if you recall, after that injunction was issued, of course, then the case was appealed by the state of Illinois, ultimately getting all the way to the Illinois State Supreme Court. That's when things went from interesting to downright dirty, because as we then found out, Governor J.B. Pritzker had donated $1 million to two separate Supreme Court justices who are now on the bench that would be helping make that decision. Now, even though Illinois state campaign finance law said the maximum donation was $500,000, Governor Pritzker used his campaign fund as well as his own personal account to make two donations totaling $1 million. And of course, the state of Illinois did not find that to be a campaign finance violation. Ultimately, in a very narrow decision, shockingly, the Illinois State Supreme Court upheld the assault weapon ban. Now, one of the big reasons that Caulkins v. Pritzker is being appealed to the United States Supreme Court is that there were motions to have both Judge O'Brien and Judge Roqueford recuse themselves from the case. And candidly, any attorney who's even taken the basic legal ethics class would have realized that the judges should have recused based upon all of the previous statements that they had made and the fact that they had accepted $1 million campaign donation from one of the named defendants in the case. Of course, neither judge recused and ultimately sided with the majority in upholding the ban. So in addition to the obvious Second Amendment violations which have gone on here, there is an additional challenge under fundamental fairness and due process and whether or not there was judicial misconduct at the Illinois State Supreme Court level. Now, this will certainly raise the interest level for the United States Supreme Court. And so the case, if we are hopeful to get an assault weapon ban case before the United States Supreme Court, right now, the one that appears to be on the inside of the track is Caulkins v. Pritzker. Now, there is a second case that we need to be aware of also, and we have talked to this gentleman, Rob Bevis. The case is Bevis v. Naperville. Now, Mr. Bevis was actually subject to a municipal assault weapon ban before the rest of the folks in Illinois had to take one on the chin as well. His case now, as we know, has proceeded all the way to a 3-judge panel of the 7th Circuit who has ruled against the plaintiff and not granted the injunction there. Now, there's been some criticism. This is a case that's handled by the National Association for Gun Rights. A lot of people felt that Bevis v. Naperville also should have been directly appealed to the United States Supreme Court. However, plaintiff's counsel in that case has decided to take this before a full en banc panel of the 7th Circuit. Now, there's 2 ways you can look at this. Number one, when you look at the political breakdown of the justices and senior justices on the bench, you will see, in fact, that, yeah, it is predominantly a Republican-nominated bench. But then you take a look at judges like Frank Easterbrook here, who, even though he was nominated by Ronald Reagan, has never seen a piece of civilian disarmament legislation that he didn't absolutely adore. So you can't necessarily put a ton of stock into who appointed that. I mean, everyone thought that Chief Justice John Roberts would be an extreme right-wing judge, and he's proven to be an incredibly moderate Chief Justice. Now, many people believe that the full panel of the 7th Circuit is going to do exactly what the 3-judge panel did and uphold this law. If that were to occur, obviously, we would likely see a petition to the United States Supreme Court. Again, I don't know why they're not doing it right now. I'm sure they have good reasons. Again, I've always found that the National Association for Gun Rights is really thorough in their litigation. I don't think they do foolish things, and I'm sure there is a method to the madness. And as a matter of fact, if anyone, especially Dudley Brown, wants to come on the channel and talk about it, we'd love to have you. So, right now, Illinois, as we approach there are 2 cases that you need to very, very carefully watch. And I would say to anyone else living in a state right now where you have had the right to purchase a semi-automatic rifle taken from you, you need to very carefully pay attention to these cases as well. The first is Caulkins v. Pritzker. It clearly has the inside track right now to the United States Supreme Court, and we need to carefully monitor what's happening there. The other one is Bevis v. Naperville. It's taking a more circuitous route. It's going to stay in the 7th Circuit for now, but also could likely end up on a petition for certiorari. At this point, there appears to be no stopping this registration requirement, and come January 1st, the governor and the attorney general are talking about confiscating these firearms. Things are going to get very interesting in the next month and a half in Illinois. Listen, if you got any questions about this or anything else related to what's left of our Second Amendment rights, you guys should know how to get a hold of Washington gun law by now. If you don't, that's okay. That information, it's right down there in the description box. Now, in the meantime, let's everyone remember that part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation, how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching. Stay safe.